everyone, this is Craig Fear with Fearless Eating, and today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade chicken and beef stock. I'm going to make them side by side right on the stove top here. And the reason we want to make our own homemade stocks is because you really can't get good quality stocks in stores, unfortunately, so we really need to make them at home. And homemade stocks have a lot of health benefits. In particular, they're wonderful for our digestion. They help soothe inflammation in the digestive tract, and people have used them historically for a long time to help ease indigestion and various kind of digestive issues. So just a quick word on equipment before we get started. Basically, all you really need is a good stock pot, and I'm going to make the beef stock in this larger stock pot, and I'll make the chicken stock in these smaller stock pots. Use whatever you got, obviously, but I think it's great to make an investment in a larger stock pot. So this is a nice 20-quart stock pot, and this will make a lot of stock. I'm going to probably get 10 to 12 quarts of beef stock. I just use a lot of stock. And as you get comfortable with this, and you're going to make some wonderful, delicious, nourishing, traditional soups and stews, you're going to want to have stock around. So it's nice to make a larger batch at once, but if this is all you got, that's fine. We'll make a smaller kind of batch of chicken stock today. So on that note, next I'm going to show you the different parts of the animal, the different cuts of chicken and beef that we're going to look to use to make a nice kind of nourishing stock. Okay, so here we go. So we got our whole chicken here, and other parts of the chicken I'm going to kind of go through with you here. First things first, we have our mirepoix, fancy French term for basically carrots, onions, and celery. And I'm going to chop up about two stalks of carrots and celery and add in a whole onion for the chicken stock. I'll probably double that up for the beef stock since I'm making quite a bit more. So as far as making chicken stock goes, there's a number of different ways you can do it. You can use just a whole chicken right here, and that's perfectly fine. So we'll just put this whole chicken in water, and we'll put it with the vegetables, we'll simmer it, and that'll give us a nice kind of light broth. And after a few hours, I'll probably take it out after about 3 to 4 hours after the meat cooks. I'll keep the meat separately. I'll use that for later for chicken soup or for chicken salad. And then I'll put the bones back in. I also have a bunch of bones I've saved up in the freezer over the past few months, some nice chicken bones. I'll throw that in too. So that'll give us kind of a nice light broth, but in addition to the bones, a good nutrient-rich broth will have a lot more than just bones, and that's where different parts of the animal come in. And traditionally people used a lot more than just bones. So, and this is particularly great for digestive issues because other parts of the animal are going to add additional nutrients that are great for healing our digestion. So here we have chicken back, and this I got at my local health food store. They sell them kind of separately. Here we have, this is actually a turkey neck. They didn't have any chicken necks, but that's fine. Turkey neck's fine. Here are the giblets, which is basically the internal organs. Those will add some wonderful nutrients. If you ever see the liver, and this did have the liver, remove the liver. That will kind of make your broth taste a little, a bit bitter. So just kind of remove that. Anything else is fine. And here we have the chicken feet. I know this kind of grosses people out, but historically people use these chicken feet, and these are great because they're very gelatinous and they have a lot of gelatin in there. And that's another thing we're looking for when we make a nice nutrient-dense stock. Gelatin is, what makes Jello jiggle, and it's this nutrient that's wonderful for our digestion, and that'll add a nice amount of gelatin. So all these kind of other parts, they have a lot of collagen in them and really good nutrients, amino acids, again the gelatin that kind of round out a stock, give it a richer flavor. And just make for a wonderful, wonderful traditional stock. So that's our different chicken parts. I'll put these in the pot all together and add it up with water and get this puppy going. And next I'll show you the different parts of different types of beef bones we can use as well. Okay, now we're ready for the beef stock, and we have our assortment of different types of beef bones here. So when you're making a beef stock, you want to get again a variety of different cuts of beef, different types of bones anyway. And the first one here, this is a meaty bone. I think it's the neck bone. You can get rib bones. Meaty bones are great. They'll add nice color and nutrients. Meaty bones you can certainly roast in the oven if you want to. I'm going to skip that step today for simplicity's sake. but I often do roast the meaty bones, and you roast it in the oven, 400 degrees for maybe a half hour, and the outside will brown. That'll definitely add some nice additional flavor to your broth. This right here is a marrow bone. Sometimes you'll get them cut in smaller pieces like so from your butcher. And the marrow bones, the marrow's in this bone, and this'll add some really, boy, your dog will love these sorts of bones too. This will add lots of additional nutrients as well. And then we have our knuckle bone, and these are great if you can get these. The knuckle bones have a lot of gelatin in there, and that's why I really like making beef stock a lot, is because I get a pretty consistent gelatinous beef broth. With chicken stock, it's a little hit or miss. Sometimes I get good gelatin, sometimes I don't. If you don't get a gelatinous stock, it is no big deal. There is still a lot of great nutrition and nutrients in there, so don't stress it if it doesn't gel very well. Again, not a big deal. So I actually have double the amount. I have 2 knuckle bones, 2 marrow bones, a few meaty bones. I'll put the vegetables in there, and this is going to make quite a nice amount, about 10 to 12 quarts of beef stock. So next step, I'll get these in the pot, I'll get them soaking in water, and we'll begin the process. Okay, so we're just about ready to go here to start making our stocks, and I got my beef bones in here, and I got my chicken bones in here, and what we're doing is we are doing step 1 of a 5-step process, and we are soaking the bones and the chicken parts in water for about an hour with a little acid, a little apple cider vinegar I'm using here. You can use other types of vinegar. And what that does is it helps to withdraw the minerals from the bones to begin that process, so we get a more mineral-rich stock. So that's step 1, which is soaking, and the rest of the steps, they all begin with the letter S, so they're really easy to memorize. So we got soaking, then we're going to skim. So once we get the water up to a boil, there will be some scum that'll form, some impurities will come to the surface, we'll skim that off, and then we're going to simmer for an extended period, and then at the end we're going to simply strain the bones out and of course store. So this is step 1, soaking, and I'll check back with you once this gets to a little bit of a boil and we start to see that scum, and I'll show you step 2 in just a little bit. Okay, so step 2 now. So now we're going to skim. So I've put this on high, and as you can see, a lot of this scum comes to the surface. It's just some impurities, and you know, some people say it's not a big deal, you don't even have to skim it off, and they'll say, well, you know, it will make your broth a little cloudy. Some people say, you know, you really do need to skim it off. I see all sorts of different opinions on this, but I do skim it off. You know, it does look a little nasty. So I'll spend a few minutes skimming this off, and this will also happen with the chicken broth as well. And that's step 2. And then after this is step 3, and that is absolutely the most important step. So be right back with step 3 after I get all this gross looking scum off the surface here. Okay, so here we go. So step 3, this is the most important step, and the reason is because step 3 is simmer. And when I say simmer, I mean gently simmer. So I've skimmed off all the scum, and as you can see, I don't want to get my camera too close, but it's very gently simmering, and that's about where I want it to be. Even that might be a little bit too much. I might cut the heat down a little. When I put the lid back on, you know, I'll have to cut it down a little bit more and just check on it. Make sure it's barely simmering. And the reason we want to barely simmer it is because if you boil it or simmer it too rapidly, it can damage the gelatin. Now, it's still going to be fine. It's still a usable stock. And that's one of the problems with crock pots when you make a stock on a crock pot, is it often the lowest setting will still boil it. And then it won't gel very well. So we're looking for a nice gelatinous stock, and really this is about the highest we want to go right here. Never want to boil it, except in the beginning, just when you get to get the scum formed, and then you cut down the heat real quick. And this is about what you want to, about the simmer you want. And you know, we can do the same thing with the chicken stock over there. And I'm just going to leave this now until we get to our final step. So this will just be the this will just kind of go for a while. So we'll check back when we are ready to strain all this out. Okay, so now we're ready for step 4, and step 4 is to strain the stock. So here's my beef stock ready to be strained. It's been simmering for quite a while now, so it's all set. And to strain your stock, very simple. All you need to do is take a piece of cheesecloth, line it over a colander, like so, and then put the colander over a larger bowl. This is kind of the largest colander and bowl I have. If I had something larger, I would definitely use it because this is a lot of stock. So use kind of what you got in your kitchen. We're all going to have different types and sizes of equipment. So I'm all ready to go, and all I'm going to do now, and for me this is a little bit awkward and time consuming in my kitchen, especially when it comes to a larger batch of stock. Now my chicken stock, which I strained the other day, this was very simple. It was a smaller batch. I literally could just pick up the whole pot. I took out some of the larger pieces of the bones first and just kind of dump it all in, in one fell swoop. So it was pretty quick. With larger amounts, obviously it's going to be a little bit more time consuming, and I just don't have a lot of large equipment to do this more efficiently than the way I do it. So it's a little awkward, a little time consuming. I would also recommend doing this near your sink. It's a very cloudy, overcast day today, so the light isn't too good over at the sink. But so what I'm going to do is just take this glass measuring cup, and I'm just going to start taking the stock right out, like so, and just kind of straining it out. And then as this strains, I'll probably fill this about 3/4 full, and then I'll start taking, remove the colander, scoop the broth out, and start transferring it to glass ball jars. And this is my chicken stock from the other day. So I actually did the chicken stock a few days ago, so it's been in the fridge for a few days. So this video is actually 3 days later than the last one, and the reason is the beef stock can actually go as long as 3 days. Now you don't have to go 3 days with your beef stock, but the idea behind the stocks when we simmer them is the longer we simmer them, the more we get the nutrients out of them. So I actually did go 3 days on the stock. You could go 12 hours, so like 12 to 72 hours is a general time frame for a beef stock. For a chicken stock, 4 to 24 hours. So I'm just going to spend the next 20-30 minutes kind of doing this. So it is a little time consuming, it is a little messy with the straining, especially if you're making the larger amounts of stock. But it'll be done soon, and I'll show you the final step, which is just getting them all in the ball jars, and then we'll store them, and that'll be it. So we're almost done. All right, so there it is, the final product. I have my chicken stock over here, about 4 or 5 quarts, and I got all my beef stock over here, and that's about 10-11 quarts. And you can notice like the nice dark color. That's a good sign of a lot of nutrients in there. I'll show you a close-up here in just a second of the gelatin that's formed. And that's it. So now I'm going to store it. So whatever I'm going to use in the next week, I'll store in the fridge. I'll probably be about 2 or 3 quarts. And if you look at the top of the stock, you'll see a little layer of fat that will form, and that'll act as a little sealant, so you can keep it in the fridge for up to a week. You can skim that right off. Some people use it and will put it on the side and use it as a cooking fat. I will do that actually. And so let me just zoom in real quick, and let me just show you the gelatin and what that looks like in the stock. So here's a close-up just to show you the gelatin. You can't see it, but if you jiggle it a little, you can see that. You see the jiggle there? Put the spoon in, you really see it. So that's the gelatin. And that's what we're looking for when we're making a nice kind of well-gelatinous stock. And that's really great for digestive issues in particular. So one more thing I want to show you. Check this out. So this is a wide mouth ball jar, and that's kind of what you want to use if you're using glass. And it's wide at the top, as opposed to this jar, which kind of is not wide at the top. This was a fish stock I made several months ago, and it's kind of frozen on the outside, but there's a good angle. And you can see it bends at the top, it narrows at the top, and that can often cause the jars to crack, just like that. I filled this one way up to the top too much, and the stock will expand a bit when you put them in these jars and freeze them. And that's why you always want to leave a little bit of space from the top of the stock to the top of the jar, about an inch, inch and a half. And that shouldn't be a problem with these wide mouth ball jars. So there you go. So that's how to make chicken and beef stock. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. One last little tip, and that is if you don't have all the different cuts of the chicken, all the different types of beef bones, don't worry about it. Use whatever you got. Sometimes I'll only have one type of bones, or I won't even have any of the vegetables. Sometimes I'll make them without the vegetables. Sometimes I'll have different types of bones and I'll just throw them all in. So it'll be a little mix of chicken or beef, even pork or lamb. Use what you got. Good things happen when we simmer bones for long periods in water. If you don't get any gelatin in your stock, don't worry about it. Don't throw it out. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's still going to be great. The idea is just to experiment. Every stock will be a little bit different, and just have fun with it. So that's how to make chicken and beef stock. Happy stock making.